Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY video interview. Today, I'm joined by Leigh Segall. She's the CEO of Smart Communications, which bills itself as the trusted choice for regulated enterprise looking to modernize complex processes and connect with customers in the moments that matter most. Leigh, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Alex. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, Leigh, before we continue, can you please tell us about Smart Communications in 2026 and what you do? And after that, I'll ask you about your very recent appointment of Heidi Johnson as the new Chief Product and Technology Officer.
Absolutely. So, smart communications helps highly regulated enterprises modernize the way that they interact with their customers in what we call those moments that matter. That might be claims, that might be onboarding, service, or support. If you think about those moments in the heavily regulated industries that we serve, those moments typically carry real emotional or financial implications, and getting them right is make or break for these enterprises. And so it's all about building trust and accuracy and timeliness into those interactions. And that's difficult for enterprises to do for a number of reasons. The reality is those organizations need to deliver a level of empathy in their communications and their interactions at the same time that they bring speed and comply with significant security and compliance regulations. And so we've built our platform to support those heavily regulated industries to ensure that those end-to-end interactions really do support the make or break moments in a relationship with a customer. And so our platform, which is called the Conversation Cloud Platform, unifies a number of critical capabilities, among them data access, data collection, communications, orchestration of those conversations and communications, and then archival and retrieval of every one of those interactions. The platform is built with governance and auditability surrounding it to ensure that every one of those moments is delivered with empathy, with care, with accuracy, with trust at the same time that you're meeting those security and compliance requirements. And we work with, more than 700 of the largest enterprises in public sector, in financial services, insurance, and healthcare today. And we're powering tens of billions of mission critical customer interactions every year.
Well, it sounds like it's a very modern solution to a modern problem. I mean, all this information does have to be captured these days. It's just a requirement of doing business in the 21st century.
That's right. And it's only getting harder, right? I mean, there are more conversations that are happening with every one of your consumers. There are more channels to deliver those conversations across. There are more and more regulatory requirements to meet, and expectations are only increasing from your customers. And so that's what we've been built to address. And it's a pleasure to do it with the largest enterprises around the world.
And you just recently appointed a new Chief Product and Technology Officer, which I was writing about. Heidi sounds very qualified.
Yeah, and Heidi's a big part of our momentum story, right? As we look at 2026 and we look at the growth that we're experiencing in markets around the world, we have brought on a new Chief Product and Technology Officer to help us scale that growth and scale that vision. And so Heidi brings deep expertise in complex and really building and managing complex enterprise platforms, and especially so in the regulated industries. And her role at Smart is to integrate product and technology to make sure that we are scaling globally, that we're innovating responsibly, and that we're moving just at the pace that our customers demand.
Okay, so let's move on to the reason for our discussion today, which revolves around Australia's recently released 2026 National AI Plan. So before we go a bit deeper, what is your reaction to the plan, and how do you see it advancing Australia's AI ambitions and capabilities, coupled with demonstrably clear and auditable safeguards?
Well, I would tell you, I see it as a positive step for Australia. And I think importantly, when I look at the guidelines, Australia has taken two key tenets and brought them together with equal weight, right? One is the importance of AI as a true strategic capability that Australia absolutely needs to leverage in order to remain competitive. And then the second is all around transparency and trust and accountability, right? The key elements that will enable AI truly to be adopted by enterprises and especially so in the heavily regulated industries. And so I think when I look at the plan and the focus on these demonstrable safeguards, I think that's especially important to the success of this initiative. If you think about moving the conversation beyond these kind of abstract principles into concrete opportunity to leverage AI for purpose, to drive real business impact. It's all about, to me, those guardrails are all about auditability, human oversight, and the ability to explain how and when and why AI is being used. And if we're able to do that, and we absolutely are able to do that, then I would tell you that is what will drive confidence from enterprises in adopting AI. Equally, it will drive confidence and comfort from consumers and citizens that AI is being used in responsible ways.
I remember before the current AI revolution when ChatGPT launched in November 2022. Before then, I was talking to people who were rolling AI into companies and helping companies actually make decisions company wide. I mean, this was in the late 2010s. And at the time, we were talking about the big black box problem where AI, there was no such thing as explainable AI. People were wanting AI to explain itself. And it's good to see that, the thinking process, which actually DeepSeek from China started off by showing its thought processes. And now it doesn't matter which AI system I use, I see that thinking process taking place. So it's good that we have this ability for AI to be accountable, especially in high risk regulated decision making. So given that it's really important for AI to be ethically bound with these guardrails, and clearly there's this whole issue of AI delivering good practice and working to the standards that you are laying out for it, especially again for these highly regulated industries. What does good practice look like in customer communications where errors can carry real risk?
It's a great question. I think what AI looks like in a best practice for customer communications is that it's supporting decisions, but it's not replacing accountability, right? So if you think about the heavily regulated industries, what does that mean specifically for best practices? One is transparency, right? Just real clarity on how AI is being used, whether you choose to use it, giving that opt in or opt out capability, and how it's being used, and specifically how it's being used and when it's being used to shape a specific communication. I would say that's the transparency piece. Say there is absolutely, as a second part of best practice, this human oversight piece, right? If you think again about the communications that we're speaking of, they carry real impact, whether that's legal, whether that's financial, or whether that's health related. And so ensuring there is still a human in the loop, ensuring that there is review and the ability to intervene is a key part of that best practice. And then the last piece is around traceability, right? Auditability. Again, how was it being used? When was it used? What communication was delivered to whom and when? And if something goes awry, are you able to deconstruct that data pattern? Are you able to really understand what was leveraged and how to repeat, to learn, and then to make sure that you're building processes that are well governed and that are safe? I think when we look at AI through the lens of those best practices, and to your point, Alex, we've gotten much better at that over the years, right? We're continuing to learn here. When we look at it through that lens, we're not actually creating additional risk. We're building trust in the communications process. We're just using AI for purpose. We're creating speed and efficiency and accuracy, but we're not removing any accountability or layering additional risk into the process.
This all reminds me, Leigh, of something that IBM put out some years ago, I think in the 70s, which says a computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision. Now, that was like 50 years ago. And already we're seeing with
Right.
OpenClaw that people are trying to give more and more of their thoughts and, their authority over to AI. But we're still in this era where we still need human oversight. And I mean, thank goodness for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, digital transformation is all about modernizing operations to take advantage of the latest technologies, which now includes the incredible new capabilities that AI brings to all players in the market, which we've been speaking about. Legacy communications are now a bottleneck to speedy yet accurate operations, however. So, how does smart communications modernize regulated customer communications in a way that brings tangible benefits to companies and their customers?
So legacy technologies, I should say, don't simply slow down communications. They really hinder the ability of an enterprise to collect relevant data from a customer, data that can be used for purpose to drive much more personalized and appropriate conversations, and to do that in real time. And so that's really, if you think about that, that's the friction that's created through these legacy systems. It's creating friction on both sides, enterprise and customer. And it's also limiting the ability to bring AI and innovation into that conversation to drive even greater impact for the enterprise and again for the customer. And so what we do is we modernize that entire customer conversation. We're collecting digital data upfront, guiding customers through digitalized interactions that allow us to collect powerful information in real time. And we can use that data for purpose across every future interaction with that customer. We can then create the right communications and conversations, deliver those communications at scale across channels, orchestrating that process to make sure that the right information is delivered to the right customer at the right time, but also on their preferred channel. And then the last piece of that is we are archiving every bit of that end-to-end interaction. Again, bringing that auditability and traceability into the conversation. That's important for scrutiny. That's important for compliance. It's also important for fair practice and to understand decisions that were made and why they were made over time. We're leveraging AI across that entire journey, driving efficiency and impact and accuracy, making sure that you can retrieve the right information at the fastest possible rate because we're able to bring in new technologies based on the modern technology that we've built our platform upon. And so I would say that's what we're doing. It means that organizations that we support can guide their customers through that end-to-end process and make those customers feel known and valued and recognized at every juncture, at every one of those moments that matter. The impact for the enterprise is, you reduce your manual effort, you improve accuracy, you certainly improve response times and compliance at the same time that you maintain heavy auditability. And from a customer perspective, it's all about having a connected, consistent, seamless experience where again you feel known, valued, and recognized, and where that's the make or break of this relationship. And you're building loyalty and trust because of the communications and the conversations that you've enabled.
Well, that's clearly building customer trust in these AI-driven communications. I mean, previously there was Klarna, for example, a couple of years ago, it had sacked a whole stack of its human customer service agents. And then after a while, it had to hire some of them back because AI agents just weren't as good as human nuance. And that was a couple of years ago. Things have changed. But clearly, what you've described to me is organizations using AI responsibly and building customer confidence rather than eroding it.
Well, that's exactly right. I think it's all about how AI is being used. I think when it is used in the right way, it is absolutely about building confidence and not eroding it in any way. I think it really comes down to using it as an enabler, but not as a replacement for human judgment, right? So if you apply it in ways that truly are improving accuracy and speed and consistency while keeping people accountable for the decisions and the implications that really matter, you're not eroding trust in any way. You're creating a balance that shows that these communications are that much more thoughtful. And so to me, responsible use really is about governance, right? Clear implications on how it's being used, when it's being used, and why it's being used. And then it's about that human oversight piece. Let's just make sure that there is a human in the loop that is guiding these decisions. AI can draft, right? AI can compose, AI can create efficiencies, and then the human can make sure that there's not a nuance that's being missed along the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the great things about AI is that it's adds insight, which is, another another way of saying AI. And it's a superpower that people didn't have before. I mean, you needed people who were really
Absolutely.
perceptive, and AI can just add that perceptivity into the equation and really it's a force multiplier. So that is
And we're
something
seeing
that I
that
think,
in real
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
We really are. I mean, we're using it in really powerful ways that are thoughtful and responsible, but are practical exactly to the point that you're making, right? If I think about the way that we're leveraging agents to ask questions of customers and to create far better experiences, there is so much power in the insight that AI can bring and guide conversations that create a far better experience. It's just about balancing it. And that's really where responsible practice comes in.
Yeah, I know that personally I've used AI to analyze transcripts of interviews I've done, like I'm going to do with this particular one. And some of the insights that the AI engine that I'm using brings out, it's like, I didn't even think of that myself. And I'm so glad that I actually had this helper to help me analyze everything that we spoke about and surface these pull quotes and other things. It's really impressive
Absolutely.
and far better than it was in November 2022. That's for sure.
That is
So
for sure.
what?
It is improving by the
Yeah.
day. Yes.
So, what else do we need to know about the smart communications platform, both for Australian and global companies?
I would share that while we are absolutely supporting global enterprises around the world, we have deep roots in Australia and it's something that we take great pride in. We acquired, so if you think about the capabilities that we bring as part of our Conversation Cloud platform, two of four of those capabilities were born in Australia. And so we acquired a business out of Canberra back in 2019 called IntelliDocs, which is now our Smart IQ capability. And then just toward the end of last year in 2025, we acquired a Sydney-based company, Pendula, which is our orchestration capability. And we take enormous pride in that. Australia is absolutely leading the way from an innovation perspective, helping us, helping enterprises globally think about the way that they support critical customer interactions. And so those teams, we now are 100 strong employees in Australia. And those teams are a part of our global R&D organization. They are shaping the future of how enterprises interact with their customers. And I would tell you that as we are growing globally, it's that combination of local expertise and experience with a global mindset that's allowing us to continue to scale at the rate that we're scaling. And so I would say for Australian companies who are listening, take great pride in the industry that you're building right here, an industry that's powering innovation around the world. And also know that in working with us, you are working with an organization that has deep roots and local expertise that we're bringing to bear for the organizations that we support here at the same time that we help them to think about practices that allow for global scale.
Now, you just shared a couple of Australian acquisitions. I mean, I'm speaking to you from Canberra right now. It's my hometown. Love the place. But I'm wondering if there's a couple of customer success stories. You don't have to mention their names if you don't want to, but where your solutions have been implemented and the companies concerned have seen tangibly great results.
Absolutely. So we absolutely deliver tangibly great results across both public and private sector, particularly where communications are mission critical, are high in volume, and are highly regulated. That's really where we play. And so I would tell you in Australia, we support a number of public sector government services that citizens are leveraging every day. So when you are applying for travel documentation, for managing your license, or updating superannuation funds, we are likely the powerhouse behind those interactions. And so the impact there, I would tell you, is real. It's all about faster processing and better experiences and reduced errors. It's also demonstrative of our ability to work in very heavily compliant organizations, to be able to do this at scale and inside the requirements and the guardrails that government agencies demand. And so That's where I would say we're seeing the impact on public sector in Australia. Very similar in private sector, very similar type of impacts and results. And I would tell you Gallagher Bassett, Rural Affinity, AMP are all using our platform, among others, to drive end-to-end experiences for their customers and really to drive some efficiency, significant efficiency for their employees as well.
And I'm always curious when I speak to companies talking about AI as to which AI platforms they're using. And, presumably it's a combination of Gen AI and then also retrieval augmented generation for the times when, you don't want any hallucination because you're going from information that is, specific to a company. And also after that, how you think the AI advances are going to blossom through to 2030 and beyond.
Yeah, it's a great question. I will tell you, we leverage AWS. I mean, that is, we are building our AI strategy on top of AWS, and that partnership is critical to us in terms of ensuring that we can innovate responsibly and at scale, right? And so we started our AI journey by being very deliberate about where we could leverage AI to drive true business value, right? Not AI for AI's sake, but where could we power greater efficiency, greater accuracy, greater customer experience, and where would AI be powered to really kind of underpin that innovation? And so that's how we have thought about it and how we continue to think about it. I would tell you, AWS gives us the ability to kind of build a strong foundation because it allows that confidence, our confidence in security and flexibility, in scalability, at the same time that we can test new approaches right between now and 2030. You know this better than I do. Daily, there's innovation that's happening. And because we're on the AWS platform, we could take advantage of that innovation in real time without compromising data security or governance. And so that's really how we think about it.
Yeah, I was at AWS reInvent in December in Las Vegas, and it was just mind blowing.
We were on
The
stage.
well, I probably, well, I didn't go to every single event because they normally have the media going on a
That's
particular
fair.
track. But definitely
Yeah.
what was on display was mind blowing. And to know that you're plugged into that platform, well, it's definitely a very advanced platform that has no doubt improved even more since December. So you're getting a closer view into those advances than I am. But that's excellent to hear. And yeah, AWS is a great choice.
Well, I appreciate that. And we take great pride in the way that we're partnering with them and also in the way that they are standing us out as an organization that really is innovating in ways that are practical, ethical, responsible, and driving high impact. And so we have a very close relationship with them because they're taking great interest in the way that we're leveraging this, and importantly, in the way that our enterprise customers are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, look, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to ask a couple of personal questions. The first of which is if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
Absolutely. So my first personal computer, which will age me a bit, was the Apple IIe. And I was just beyond excited, as were my sisters, when my dad brought home this new computer. I was probably, 6 or 7. And so that was my first experience. And I'll tell you, it started with at that age, it started with games, right? It was Brick Out or something fun like that. Later, it
Yeah.
might have been Print Shop for me, but it opened this world for me that has absolutely influenced my trajectory in terms of what I love to do, how I believe technology can influence the role that we play in other people's lives, and it all started with the Apple IIe.
And it must have been a joy to bring your own children into the world of computers, some years later.
You bet it was. And now the question is how to get them off of those computers and all of the devices that they're on.
That is the
But
question. You,
absolutely.
you can probably ask AI's advice on how to do that.
That's a good one. Yes.
Well, speaking of advice, can you please share some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today?
I've been very fortunate. I've received great advice and plenty of it over the years, and I take advantage of, I'd like to say I take advantage of all of it. I think a couple of quick ones that I learned early on. One was to embrace the silence, and it sounds so straightforward, but I have to tell you, it's been something that I sit with quite a bit because many people, me included, have a tendency to fill the space in a room to make somebody else comfortable. And so when there's a moment of silence, your instinct might be to step in and to fill that gap. And the reality is if you embrace that silence and you just take a minute and let everybody sit there with some discomfort, what you ultimately learn is that somebody with that extra minute's worth of time will surface how they're feeling or what's on their mind or what they need. And you can then pick up on that with information that you otherwise might never have uncovered. And so embracing the silence, being comfortable sitting there is one. And I would say the other is just ask. Literally just ask, because I think there is um, many of us might, whether it's ego or whether it's a discomfort in being vulnerable, feel that we have to know all the answers. And the reality is, people want to help you. And so being able to ask for what you need and being vulnerable enough to know that you can't do it alone. The reality is, there is always someone that you know that's around the corner that can get you somewhere faster. And so just ask the question and allow people to leverage their expertise and help.
Well, two things on that. One, a lot of people are too, I don't know, they like they just don't sit in silence. They've got to look at their phone. They've got to do something, and thinking with yourself, with your own thoughts, sitting there can be difficult for some people. People have to rediscover that. And then the thing about asking is that these days, if you, for whatever reason you don't want to ask another human, or at least you don't want to ask them yet, you can always ask your AI chatbot
Always
and get an
ask
answer from them
AI.
first. Because
And I'll tell
sometimes,
you,
yeah, go on.
there's an enormous amount of insight that can come from AI as a starting point if you just ask.
Yeah. So, what is your final message to the viewers and the readers?
Just a thanks for giving me the opportunity to sit with you and to talk about smart communications and also the way that we're thinking about and leveraging AI. It's been a real pleasure, and so I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Leigh Segall, CEO of Smart Communications, thank you so much for taking the time, and I do hope we can speak again in the future.
I look forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.